an original.
From Story Studio Network.
Welcome to The Fatigue Fixer, the podcast where we get real about why you're so tired and what you can do about it. Every 2 weeks, we'll gather here for honest, heart-to-heart conversations about reclaiming your energy, your patience, and feeling truly at home in your body. I'm Dr. Sarah Vadeboncœur, a naturopathic doctor, Menopause Society certified practitioner, Enneagram 3 entrepreneur with enough business ideas to last me 10 lifetimes, and a hockey and baseball mom. Over the past 15 years, I've helped thousands of women just like you cut through the confusion and finally feel like themselves again. And now, I want to hear from you too. Use the link in the show notes below to leave me a voicemail, to share your story, give feedback on an episode, ask a question, or tell me what's been exhausting you. And your voice might even make it onto the show. Together, we'll get to the root of what's really draining your energy and give you the tools, clarity, and encouragement you need to fix your fatigue. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome back to The Fatigue Fixer. We are recording this on a very cold December morning, and one of the things that I have noticed of myself and that you may be noticing happening to you right now is this natural desire to slow down. And Januaries, especially for me in the past several years, I have noticed are a time where I want to hibernate. I want to slow down. And yet that is happening within a bigger context that January is a time where there is so much pressure to create resolutions, to start really strong if you own a business like I do. But I've noticed that I don't want to do any of that. I want to give myself permission to actually not make any decisions or create anything new. And that's something I've been allowing myself to do over the last couple of years. And this year, I'm being even more proactive about it by booking extra time off in January because I know I will be so grateful for slowness and for some blank open space in my calendar. So often we exhaust ourselves following these made-up rules by society about when we should be striving and working hard, which somehow is always. And we are completely detached from and unaware of our own internal rhythms and seasons, which, just like nature, which we are a part of, even though we forget, are always ebbing and flowing. So today I've invited an incredible guest to help us better understand what seasonal living is and how you can reconnect to your own internal seasons to help you better understand when it's time to push and strive and when it's time to slow down and hibernate. My guest today is Tina Lamontagne. Tina helps women build rhythm, resilience, radiance, and well-being through Ayurveda, whole seasonal living, yoga, nourishing food, and simple daily ritual. She is the founder of Seasons with Tina. Her programs, Dusk and Dawn, a daily live practice of movement, meditation, and journaling, and Seasonal Alchemy, a year-long journey of ritual and seasonal self-care, guide women to understand their own unique constitutions, fall in love with their bodies, amen, embrace deep nourishment, support rest, and cultivate sustainable vitality. Before this chapter, Tina created Yoga Attic, a boutique retreat space where she hosted over 650 gatherings for women rooted in connection, holistic wellness, and meaningful community. She also spent a decade in post-secondary education supporting students through major life transitions. A lover of people, good food, nature, and giant gardens, she thrives to live a simple, connected, creative life with her husband Guillaume and their 2 children, Ovi and Onyx. Tina, welcome to The Fatigue Fixer.
Well, I feel like crying. What a nice intro. I love how you open. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. When I thought about this episode, I knew right away that I wanted to have this conversation with you.
Wow, I'm deeply honored and I very much look forward to this conversation.
Me too. Maybe we can start for people who are very new to this idea of seasonal living. I think a lot of us feel tugs of it. Like a lot of us notice that maybe we do feel more quiet and more tired and want more sleep in the winter. And a lot of us kind of like literally come to life in the spring and the summer. So I think we kind of know it on some level. But for people for whom this concept is very new, what is seasonal living?
Yes, and I mean, I could talk in a whole lot of fluff, and we can also talk in real everyday words. And for me, seasonal living is really about, yes, we can get inspired by the seasons outside and we can really move with them. But for me, seasonal living begins with a deep awareness and connection to where you are and allowing your needs to move with that. And your needs, not just your needs, but allowing yourself to connect to your needs, and then allowing how you move with life to connect to those needs. So if I can elaborate, I don't know how fast we want to go here, but maybe I'll stop here for now.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on just the idea of acknowledging and working from your own needs. That feels like a radical idea, I think, sadly.
Yeah.
Because I think so many women especially are so attuned to everybody else's needs that we often don't even know what ours are, let alone give ourselves time, space, and permission to move from them. You know, I joke often with my patients, I'm like, we live from the neck up. We're so cerebral and we're so stuck in all of our thoughts that we are often completely disconnected from what's happening in our bodies. And that's often where some of these needs are coming from. So how do we even start to acknowledge our needs?
What a great place to begin. I think for me, why I fell in love with Ayurveda is because, first of all, it takes into account not just our body, but also all layers of us. It's this idea, as you just mentioned, that we have a body, we have a beautiful mind that is active. And in Ayurveda, we also consider your heart or your spirit or whatever you want to call it. And it's this idea that we have needs at multiple levels. And Ayurveda, I would say, or seasonal living, is a practice of moving or connecting to all these layers of self, building a moment where you live a life that is really, it's about living in your body. And you do that through building rhythm, and you can do that by first maybe starting with a rhythm in how you spend your days, like how you wake up in the morning, how you connect and thrive in your work, which we all want to do, and then also how you allow your body to unwind. And we could look at this as maybe the first cycle. And then when we want to move to cycling with the seasons, it's this idea that, okay, I am this person with an individual constitution. I have a natural state that is completely my own. You have a natural state that is completely your own. And when I connect to this daily cycle, I become very aware of who I am. And we can do that through different ways. And you already mentioned ritual. And then the world outside of me changes all the time. And it moves into a cycle that is its own also. And it's this idea of then how do I recognize the changes in me? How can I recognize the changes outside of me and build a life that is deeply connected to all of it? There's this beautiful definition of health in Ayurveda. And it's this idea that health is being anchored in all layers of self. Mm. And for me, that would be a great place to start. Like you said, we often live in our minds. We think our minds are what is real. But what if we listen deeply to what our body asks us? What if we found ways to really anchor and listen?
I want to pick up on what you said earlier about just listening to your own rhythms, because I think that is a really great place to start. Because again, I think a lot of us don't listen to our own rhythms. Our days are often created and influenced by external stuff, right? Like work deadlines, kids' activities, all these like external things that we allow to take over our day. And it's, I think, quite rare for people to ask themselves, like, what's the rhythm that I actually need? What's the rhythm that I'm going to thrive in? So one of the other things that I've noticed about myself, and my knowledge of Ayurveda is very minimal, and I would love to chat more about what it is. But from the research and reading I've done, I think I'm more of like a kapha type. Kapha being a bit more, I think, slow. So in the morning, and I've learned this about myself the hard way, I am not someone who wants to wake up and be at my desk in 30 seconds. Like some people roll out of bed and I'm like, that's a nightmare for me. So I have intentionally created part of my morning ritual, which allows me to sit on my couch, drink my coffee slowly while not doing anything else. And I have these 2 books that I read. They're literally a page each, and I read those while I drink my coffee. And just those 10, 15 minutes that I take to do that have a huge impact on what the day, like the rest of the day, feels like. So this could be as simple, would you say, as starting with like, what do you do when you wake up in the morning? How do you create a ritual that is more aligned with your own needs, not just what everybody else needs in the family or whoever you're around?
Yes. The word ritual is so popular right now,
Yes.
and it has been for a few years. And I think because we really need more of them in our days now to come back to our bodies and to ourselves. And the word ritual is about repeating. And when we repeat something every day, whether it is sitting down and writing, whether it is a simple posture that you do, whether it is opening a book, no matter what we repeat, in Ayurveda, we can look at it as a cue that will tell us, okay, this is how I feel in the moment, or this is how I come back to me in the moment. And when we're deeply intentional with these small actions that we repeat, then the awareness comes and we will say, oh, wow, this feels a bit different today. This feels like me right now. This feels good. Oh, I feel less focused right now. And when the awareness is there, then we can then add more to it and reach for what we need or tend to ourselves better. In Ayurveda, we can look at the times of the day through the doshas, which you already mentioned. So in Ayurveda, everything, first of all, a bit like Chinese medicine, Ayurveda is based on the elements. So earth, air, fire, water. And while that sounds like a whole lot of woo-woo, it's about recognizing the energy in everything around us. So kapha, which you just explained, can relate to late winter. So I would say February to May here in Ottawa or in Canada, in most places in Canada. It would relate to a heaviness, a slowness. Kapha is rich. Kapha is rich, and its main quality, if I can summarize kapha in one word, is to hold. Kapha is the ability to contain. Kapha is resilient. Kapha has the best skin that we all want. It's shiny. It's lustrous. Kapha, I would say I could compare it to rich soil. If we think of spring, which I just described, February to May, rich soil that is ready to receive that seed, moist, deeply healthy, steady. After the season of kapha, and kapha, if I said that we can recognize these energies in everything around us, is not just the season, but it's also the times of the day. So in the times of the day, we have Kapha time is actually early morning, which you just explained.
Interesting.
Kapha time would be from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So it's a time that is naturally more still. It is my favorite time of the day. It is a time that we can really see things outside of us move. There's a sense of heaviness to that time. And then if I will just, to help with the rest of the conversations, I'll go in the other two energies, which are Pitta. Pitta is what the world wants us to be all the time. Pitta is fiery. Pitta is high energy. Pitta is structured. Pitta accomplishes it. The one word to summarize Pitta is to transform. Take something, make it into something else. Pitta would also relate to our digestion in that way. And then there is Vata, which is the current time. Vata, one word to summarize it, would be change. Vata is about taking or movement. Pitta was change, but it's about movement. So it's taking one thing and bringing it somewhere else. So Vata time would be the fall and early winter. It would be the late seasons of our lives. It would be, it is summarized by air and ether. So it moves, it's drying. It is also your creativity. It is also our anxiety. It is when our minds race when we can't sleep. Coming back to the times of the day. So Kapha time, 2 to 6 a.m. Pitta time, 10 to 2, a time to do. And then Vata time is from 2 to 6 p.m. And then it begins again in our calendar, in the clock. So after 2 to 6 p.m., we come back to Kapha time, 6 to 10 p.m. We come back to this sense of heaviness, this maybe desire to unwind. And then we move back into Pitta time, a time from 10 to 2 a.m., where the body will want to restore, the body will want to digest, and when we will maybe make our way to the deepest parts of our sleep. And then early morning, we're back into Vata, middle of the night. Why this is important? Because it can really, when we get close to this clock, we can really allow ourselves to move with the natural energy of the sun. So science would call this circadian rhythms, which is the same thing in Ayurveda. So this Kapha time of the day, where you're naturally craving this slowness, is not only a great place to start, but also a great way to awaken with the sun and get your body ready for the day. So instead of like grabbing my phone, scrolling, rushing to work, panic mode with the kids, getting out of the door, rushing to work, adding coffee, we can do exactly as you say and connect to all the beautiful parts of us and say, wait a minute, what if I started this intentionally? What if I leaned into this slowness, maybe reached for harmony in this slowness and allowed myself to be deeply intentional? And this can be super short. How we start our days in Ayurveda, I would say, has 3 main pillars. The first one would be to cleanse. It's this idea of like releasing what accumulated from the night before. This could be a short moment to meditate. Cleanse could be washing your face and brushing your teeth. It could be more fancy rituals that I could teach you. But it also, so first one would be cleanse. The second one would be activate. So after this moment where you grounded in yourself, which is super important, we can also, in the morning, find balance. So in Ayurveda, we always find balance by reaching for the opposing energy or removing what is causing excess. So if the slowness feels good in the morning, we're honoring the time. If it feels good, we keep it that way. But then there's those mornings where maybe we're like sleeping in, which can be good sometimes, but there's this line where we like overindulge in that sleep, and then that heaviness could become excess or even sluggishness. So that's where the activation part is important. So I think a morning routine would first have the cleanse, then the activation, which could be moving your body. That could be as simple as walking to work, or it could be doing your workout in the morning, which would be a wonderful time to do that. It could also be leaning towards practices that will invigorate your energy. I have one of those rebounders, the little trampolines. I jump for like one song. 1 3-minute rebound for me is such a easy way to get that energy moving in the morning. From an Ayurvedic perspective, it moves your lymph. It does so much to you, and it's like, okay, I'm waking up with the sun. I'm getting moving. And then the third part of the morning, which is super important, is nourish. It would be like feeding your body what you need. In Ayurveda, we would reach for warm foods, and that would be the 3 pillars of really starting your day to move with the rhythm of the day and also to connect to yourself. And then we could get in detail for the whole day. And in the mid part of the day is when we want to really lean into that active part where we do those sharp pitta activities, where we take decisions, where we negotiate, where we create. And then honoring that rhythm would also be honoring that vata time when it comes in. So the afternoon slump is one that I'm so fascinated about. We talk about it all the time, but we often pretend like it shouldn't happen. But if we all feel this energy that goes down, that moves in a way that is less structured, I think a beautiful thing about Ayurveda, we could ask like, well, why do we all feel this? And could I tend to myself in a way that is different to meet that need? So in Ayurveda, that would be a great time to take a break, to ground. And we could also support ourselves maybe differently before to reduce that part that is more challenging about the afternoon slump or however we want to call it. And then honoring the unwind that comes later when we move back to the kapha time. So I feel like I could talk and talk, but I'll stop there for now.
No, that was so helpful. And so many things are coming up. The first thing that the whole time you're talking, I'm like, this sounds so much more pleasant and nicer than the like 5 a.m. club, which is another like kind of like ritual. But I think a lot of times, sometimes when we hear this idea of a morning ritual or a morning practice, we think of something very structured and something very like productive, right? Like it's our obsession with optimizing every minute of the day and especially in the morning. And this just sounds so much nicer to like have simple things like you're honoring the time. If it's too much, you activate yourself a little bit more, but also you're acknowledging that you are not a robot. Like we all, it's so true. Everyone has an afternoon slump. Is it because we're all doing something wrong? Or is it because we are just mortal human beings who don't have infinite amounts of energy every minute of the day? But we've created this timetable of like when we have to work and when our kids go to school and then activities, and they don't match up with often what we need.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, what it creates so much friction and frustration for people.
Yes, and I think this idea of honoring, like, if we were really to, in the same way that you described your morning, like the morning can be so chaotic for so many also.
Yes.
Like what an important part of the day to say, whoa, I'm going to slow this down and take what I need, or begin intentionally. Well, what if we looked at this afternoon time in the same way and say, okay, what does this time actually offer me? And this would be a beautiful time to lean into creativity in discussions that are maybe more heartfelt or that require, if Vata is movement, what if we moved into like creative zone or really moved into tending zone, which is really would bring balance to Vata. I think grounding is really key for that moment, but I also think how we care for ourselves in Pitta time will really support how we feel in Vata time. If I want to go in ideas right away, if people have a hard time with the late afternoon, I would say make your lunch a really important part of the day. Like,
and
really
actually take time for lunch, which most people are not even doing.
Yeah, and like nourish and slow down. And then when that 2-3 p.m. comes, you won't even notice it, or your energy will flow more naturally or more in a way that is more pleasing and fluid.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we're going to get right back to today's episode, but I want to take 30 seconds to remind you of something important. Your body has a voice, and fatigue is often how it speaks when you've been ignoring its whispers. If you've been feeling tired, disconnected, or unsure about what your body needs anymore, my Effortless Energy Reset can help you tune back in. It's a 6-week online program that walks you through my Speak method, a step-by-step process to help you sync, pause, examine, align, and rekindle your energy so you can reconnect with your body's wisdom and your inner voice. It's simple, practical, and designed to fit your real life, not add more to your plate. And right now, when you use the promo code FATIGUEFIXER, you'll save $50 off your enrollment. Join today at fatiguefixer.ca/reset and start listening to your body again. One of the things that you do and that you've said, which I think is so important, is this idea of like falling in love with being in the kitchen. And I think for a lot of women that can feel a bit jarring because a lot of us feel like the kitchen is just another place where I have to make dinner and I have to plan and think, and I don't want to do any of that. And I find it so interesting that we have created lives that are so busy that the one thing we need to do to literally keep ourselves alive is nourish ourselves and cook and feed ourselves. And we have decided that that is something we do not have time for. I find this fascinating. So talk to us about how, for everyone who's listening, who's like, but my kids have hockey and I have, I'm tired. I don't want to, if someone, like we always joke, like my least favorite question is what's for dinner? How do we help people fall in love again with being in the kitchen?
I could talk about this for a very long time. I love this question. I'll maybe begin with my previous business, which was Yoga Addict. So when I created Yoga Addict, it was like a retreat space in my home. And it was kind of like a bed and breakfast type of feel. And it was space mostly for women. And it was all about, Yoga Addict was really about escaping, but really feeding yourselves in all the ways. It was like all about restoration in many ways. And when I wrote this idea down, I really wanted to, it was less about like learning everything about yoga and doing like yoga retreats. And it was really about embodying it, feeding yourself in all the ways through yoga, through different practices, and through food. And when I started this, I was doing like everything myself. And I really wanted to bring this sense of home and this sense of comfort into this idea. And my vision was very clear. And I was like, okay, it needs to be warm meals. And I knew nothing about Ayurveda at the time. And it needs to be warm meals and things that give us comfort. And people need to leave here feeling full in all the ways. And then I would cook. And at first I had like my key recipes that I would always come back to. And it didn't take very long to notice that when the women would eat, like, it was such an important part of the day. And not just making it taste good, but it was like, oh my God, I haven't eaten like quietly without interruption in so long. Or, oh my God, it feels so good that someone is cooking for me. Like people would talk about the colors and the textures. And then I was like, oh my God, this part is super important. And for me, it was also a creative outlet. And I became a very good cook doing that.
Yes, I'm sure.
And I really, it was so clear to me how, and even now adding what I've learned by studying Ayurveda, how feeding ourselves is really, I think, one of the biggest gateways to our health. And it's so sad how we have such a hard time talking about food, talking about what is good for us, what makes us feel good, reaching for fullness. And how we have all these mixed messages of how we should care for ourselves. And in Ayurveda, food is so important. There's 3 pillars in Ayurveda. The first one is food. The second is sleep or restoration. And then the third one is energy. But and how we look at food is, there's this concept called the dhatus, and it's the 7 layers of nourishment, or the 7 tissues. And it's this idea that the first tissue, which is, I won't go into details of all of it, but the first layer is our ability to take in, to digest. And what we digest from that first layer then feeds the next, then feeds the next, then feeds the next. But when we talk about food, it's not only important how we take in, but this word, what can I digest, is so, so important. Because, and I could give you examples of when I've experienced this myself, but there's this idea in today's world that our diet needs to be perfect. We need X amount of this, X amount of that, and if not, we've all heard this. But in Ayurveda, I can tell you, you can tell me that I need 30 grams of protein at each meal. But if I can't digest those 3 grams of protein, everything I've taken in gives me nothing.
Well, and it goes back to needs, right? We are letting people who do not know us tell us our food needs.
Yes.
Instead of being embodied, right? Embodiment is standing in your kitchen and checking in and saying, what would help me feel nourished and satisfied right now? Not what someone on the internet, not what I say, not what Tina says. What are my needs right now. And it doesn't need to be complicated or calculated, like you said. And even just embodiment, like I'm thinking of all the women who I know who, when we are eating, we are not in our bodies. We are physically eating food and we are still totally in our head, thinking about all the other things we need to do, often actually doing work while we eat. And then we wonder why everyone has digestive problems. We literally are not digesting because we are not in our bodies while we eat food.
Exactly. That's exactly what you're like completing my idea. I think it's very much important. Okay, I reach for nourishing foods, but there's also the how that is so important. How do I prepare this meal in a way where it will feel good? You talked about like cooking our meals earlier. In Ayurveda, when we digest begins also when we smell, when you chop that food, when we touch it, like you will get hungry, like things, our mouth starts to water, you smell it. My kids, I was cooking last night and my son was like, it smells so good, I'm hungry. Like our body tells us, prepares us to eat. And then sitting down and eating with presence, that will do wonders for digestion more than having the perfect plate.
Yes.
And there's also creating that space for the natural cues to talk to us. There's this rule of thirds in Ayurveda that I really like. It's this idea that we should have 1/3 of the space for food, 1/3 for hydration, and 1/3 for space. And that space to digest is so important, not just in like stopping when we're full, but also relating to life.
Oh my God, leaving some space literally in your life.
Yeah, to digest food and everything else.
And digest everything else. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
So this episode, we're doing a special release, Tina. You're going to be proud. This episode is dropping on the solstice because I really wanted to be intentional about it. So you said right now, are we in
Vata season? Yeah.
Okay. Until February.
Yeah.
So are there any specific like practices or foods or anything that you can leave our listeners with that they might want to think about bringing into their rituals and their routines for this specific season?
Yeah. This season is really a season to feed yourself and to tend to yourself in all the ways. So I talked about this need to Vata, air and space. So what Vata needs, it's the season to build. So Vata needs nutrition. It needs warmth in all the ways through your foods that are warm. If we want to prepare the perfect meal for Vata, think warm, slow cooked and oily.
Yummy.
And then I would say hydration is so important for Vata. And at this time, I would say, especially at this time, you drink everything warm. Like warm water, you can add things to it. You could have like teas like licorice, ginger, which is warming. Licorice is building. It's one of my favorites. But one thing I really like and that I do right now is actually drinking water with oil in it. My husband's like, oh my God, it's like drinking butter. It's amazing.
What kind of oil?
So I put like a cup of water, and then you could put a little bit of ghee if you like ghee. Okay. Like a little spoonful, or coconut oil. You could have MCT oil, but it's really nourishing for the tissues. It's grounding for the nervous system. And in Ayurveda, ghee or these oils really help to the body to absorb all the nutrients that that we very much need at this time. If you want to get specific on ingredients, because we cycle everything with the seasons, this is, and you're going to like this, Sarah, it's a very good time to reach for sweet.
Yes.
We work with this taste in Ayurveda, and our tastes really give us cues on what we need. And sweet taste, and maybe we crave it right now, but it's because from an Ayurvedic perspective, it's that we need it. Where we find sweet is in root vegetables. All the root vegetables will give the sweet taste. They're all building, also deeply nourishing, grounding, satisfying. Grains at this time grains are also related to the taste of sweet. They're also building, supportive, like a warm porridge included in your breakfast. You want to include warming spices. I talked about ginger already. You can even add like cinnamon, nutmeg, like all the spices of the season that we know warming spices will support. Oils, which I talked about, but also oils like in our foods. For example, we can think of like fish, avocado would be wonderful for that. But also we cycle the types of protein. This is a time if you do eat meat that you could have heavier proteins that would feel very good. You could also reach for things that are fermented like kimchi or tempeh, or you could reach for pickles, things like that. It would be all warming in Ayurveda. And also things that build, like milks, whether it's dairy or nut milks, nuts. I could add.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's helpful. It gives a good.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. I made yesterday a pumpkin and peanut butter soup, which I know sounds very weird. It doesn't. It's so good. So I'm gonna have that for lunch.
Yeah, and if I can add a ritual, like I think, like a practice that people could do at this time, I would say there are 3 that I would really recommend if we're talking about this solstice. I would say the first one in Ayurveda is called Mona, and this is the practice of not speaking. This is the practice of silence and allowing your energy to turn in. Taking mini moments of silence and savoring the season, I think this is a season of introspection. And connecting to that helps us not only digest the whole year, but helps us think of what makes us inspired, what we love, connecting to gratitude. The second practice is snana, and this one is taking baths.
My favorite.
And you can add, like, you can make these baths very luxurious, adding many things to them. But the practice of taking baths in Ayurveda is like Yoga Nidra, a renewal of all of the layers of self. And when you take a bath, and we practiced this ritual for a month in one of my programs, but we were all taking baths, and it's this idea that when I take a bath, I return to me. And just bringing that intention into the practice can do so much. And then the third one that I would like to mention is Abhyanga. Abhyanga, I think at this time of year, can change the world.
What is it?
Abhyanga, it's the practice of warming oil. This you could reach for anything. You could get specific with Ayurvedic oils, but you could also use whatever you have at home. Maybe you have coconut oil in your kitchen, sesame oil. If you use sesame oil, which is wonderful in this season, use cold press and not and not the one that is roasted, because you'll smell like dumplings. But sesame oil is wonderful, and also you could even use olive oil if you'd like. and you warm your oil, like with water, like a bath. And then you will massage your body with that oil. And this is a daily practice in Ayurveda. I do it every day, all the time. This is something that you can do in the morning to move the lymph in your body, but also to ground yourself. This is a time of year where many of us feel agitated, where we feel our mind moving super fast. This will bring you back to your body. It feels calm. It feels soothing. And this could take an hour or it could take 3 minutes. So you warm the oil and you massage the whole body. And we can get specific on how we do it, but basically we're just massaging warm oil. If you can't do your whole body, or if you want to make this a very special practice, you could massage just your head and your feet. At night, that's it. My 2-minute cue to sleep is always, I massage my feet with warm oil, takes 1 minute, then I put socks over it, then I go to bed. It is so grounding. It does wonders at so many levels. Many people talk about dry brushing right now. Dry brushing is great. It is an Ayurvedic practice. But I think dry brushing is really, you could do it all year long, but it is very stimulating. So for some people, this could be too much right now. Abhyanga will do the same things from a nourishing perspective with the warmth, the nourishment, and the grounding that comes with it.
Amazing. Those all sound like lovely practices. Tina, I could talk to you all day, but we can't. So thank you for all of this. I think what I'm really taking away from today's conversation is like remembering to ground and embody, and the power of small practices and small rituals, like you said. You gave so many great ideas. So if you're listening to this, I would encourage you to pick 1 or 2 small things that really resonated and see if you can bring those into your regular practice. If you want to learn more from Tina and listen to her share her beautiful wisdom, you can follow her on Instagram. I'll link to that in the show notes. And you can also check out her programs, Dusk and Dawn, which is a beautiful way to start your day, as well as her year-long program, Seasonal Alchemy. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you back in a couple weeks, everybody.
Thank you.
I know your time is precious, so it means so much to me that you're here. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a woman in your life who could use a little extra energy and encouragement today. It's a small way to show her you care, because we're all in this together. Wondering what the next step is? Find out what's really draining your energy by taking my fatigue fingerprint quiz at fatiguefixer.ca/quiz. You'll discover which of the 5 most common types of fatigue you're dealing with, like frazzled fatigue, where your body's exhausted but your mind won't turn off, or drained fatigue, where no amount of sleep ever feels like enough. Your results will include recommended labs to ask your doctor about, plus my top suggestions for habits and practices that can help you start feeling more rested, calm, and in control. Because here's the thing, being tired all the time isn't normal. And you deserve to feel like yourself again. And hey, if you've got a story to share, a question, or just something on your mind, leave me a voicemail. Your voice might even make it into a future episode. Thanks again for listening, and remember, it's not all in your head. I believe you, and we'll figure this out together. I'll see you right back here in 2 weeks.
This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.